My name is Brian, and I am just the regular guy that likes to work on bikes. I work out of my garage and do not have special facilities or tools. I like working on older or broken bikes and seek simple yet effective solutions to everyday bike problems. A customer brought me a giant boulder mountain bike with a loose rear wheel. I had previously worked on this bike and knew of its quality and stability. Therefore, I was somewhat surprised that this was a problem. I went ahead and removed the rear wheel to see what the issue was. After loosening the V-brake and the lock nuts, I began to inspect the problem. I could see that it was definitely loose, and attributing it to some walkout of the cone nuts, I assumed I did a rotten job the first time and figured I would simply tighten the nuts. However, upon closer inspection, I realized it was really loose, so then I assumed that there was an outside chance the axle had been broken. Knowing this customer to not do jumps and such made me highly doubt that. I then removed the freewheel to get a better view of the situation, and as I was presumably tightening the cones and lock nuts to increase the tension to specification, I realized there was even more play than I had originally thought. It was then that I saw that the dust cap was in shambles, and as I dug out the bearings, I cleaned them hoping to see some reason for the issue. After the cleaning, the bearings were not overly dirty, nor were they chewed up since I had repacked the bearings last time I serviced the bike. I then realized to my great surprise that the hub itself had been damaged. I have no real idea why this happened, but apparently the pressed bearing cup in the hub had somehow split in half, either because of usage or maybe I over-tightened the cone nuts. Either scenario is improbable, but the results do not lie. I punched it out to get a better look at it, and sure enough, it was split in half as seen in this picture. This was a first for me because the only thing I can think was that I may have over-tightened it when I did the initial hub service and didn't realize the fracture. To preserve the wheel, I looked for another hub that I could use the cup. However, even after pulling two out of some other hubs, I didn't like the quality and material. Since I struggled to find a decent hub with cones I could replace, I then took the drastic measure of finding a used 7-speed hub that I liked and proceeded to disassemble the wheel. What I did here was the equivalent of an entire video showing how to replace a hub, but that will be for another day. In order to find an appropriate hub, I needed one that had 36 holes to match the existing wheel, as well as the basic dimensions, so I didn't have to resize the length of the spokes. After removing all the spokes and nipples and removing the rim, I separated the two sets of spokes, those for the drive side and those for the non-drive side. They are typically not the same length, therefore it is wise not to mix the two. For the reassembly, I like cleaning and greasing my spoke nipples as I find the trueness of the wheel is better preserved. I started by replacing the spokes on the new hub, greasing the nipples as I went, then continued with the truing of the wheel. This process would typically take me 3 to 4 hours depending on how accurate I am with my lacing technique. After completing the wheel assembly, I simply had to put it back on the bike and check my limits to confirm the chain alignment with the derailleur so that shifting was smooth. I reattached the V-brake and confirmed the dish of the wheel was correct.
Okay, so got the wheel rebuilt, and no major issues there. It's working pretty good now. I get off the other bike. Seems to be pretty good. Obviously, just replaced the entire hub, only because of the fact that once I realized that the bearing cup had actually, just split in half. I don't know if it's due to over tightening of the ball bearings or whatever the reason was, but it obviously had a catastrophic failure. First time I've ever seen that happen on a bike. Does seem to be like I do see that the wall of the bearing cup seems to be machined down a little bit to make it a little bit thinner so that it probably reduces a little bit of the weight. But of course, with that comes the downside that it can fail like this stuff did. So anyway, but yeah, replaced the entire hub only because I didn't think I wasn't finding good bearing cups that I liked that I could replace just the cups in the hub that I was using. Plus, that hub was actually a steel hub, and I was like, well, for the amount of time and effort I'm going to spend on trying to rebuild this hub, might as well just use a new hub. So I went ahead and grabbed an aluminum alloy hub that is a little better. Has a dust cap on the back end, a dust cone that protects the back side, the non-drive side. The drive side was pretty good. I had already rebuilt that hub sometime back anyway, so I knew it was clean. And just went ahead and I just replaced. Obviously, took it off the spokes, put the new spokes on, or put the spokes back on with the hub and the rim. So again, that's really what it was. It was actually rather easy once I figured out what I was doing, because I always struggle putting on the spokes. I have to try to line them up in the right configuration, and I always mess up because I put them I miscount my numbers or something like that. There's always something I did wrong. But anyway, got it together. It's running very smooth, very clean. As you can see, there's hardly any movement at all on the rim, so it's very true now. This is a brand new tire that's from the last time I rebuilt this, and it's a little bit tight on the rim. So I'm gonna have to see if I can maybe shift it so it doesn't wobble so much on the stuff. Other than that, the bike seems to be running great. Cleans the chain as always. I just could do. Of course, I had to readjust the limits on the rear derailleurs, because now has a new back sprocket, and that sprocket seems to be working better. I did a couple test drives just to kind of see how it was running. Okay, the other one was jumping. Now again, this may be a symptom of what was happening with the wheel. If the wheel was all wobbly, then that could have thrown off the alignment on the actual gears themselves. So that could have been a reason why that was getting me so much trouble. But the customer came and I just said, look, it doesn't work, and I looked at it, and then lo and behold, here I am now stuck with this broken cup. So anyway, it was actually a good thing that occurred. But putting on this new sprocket, probably, it's the same sprocket, the same age, same area, same pipe, and all that stuff. And as long as it works as expected, then of course I would hope that I don't receive any more phone calls telling me that the bike is not working. So until the next video, again, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you wish, and hopefully we can answer any more questions that you may have about either this bike or another bike, or some problems you may be having on your own bike. But I definitely am open to answering any questions that possibly can provide. Thanks a lot. Until then.